Hey everyone, today we're continuing with my 0 to 60 series, showing every single Dodge Durango model 0 to 60 and quarter mile times for the entire history of the Durango, going through all three generations from 1998 to the present day in 2025. I've also done the same style of video for other models like the Dodge Charger, Challenger, Magnum, and Chrysler 300. If you want to check those out, I'll leave the links in the description. So for this series, I try my best to get footage of each of the different engines that were offered going 0 to 60, and I'll display the time that the car is capable of stock for both 0 to 60 and quarter mile times, alongside a photo of that car or that model, and a comparison performance chart of each to add more to the video. The comparison is just a chart that shows other vehicles with the similar performance times, and some of them are pretty random, but as the video went on, I did try to use other SUVs at least. The video will be organized by generation of the Durango to keep things more simple. I've done the engine type in the past, but there are just too many versions this time around through the three generations. I've tried to find the most accurate stats that I could by using a variety of sites like 0to60times.com, MotorTrend, Car and Driver, and Automobile Catalog. Also, please note that each video shown may not necessarily be a perfect run that matches the listed times, and of course you can always beat those listed times by doing certain things like adding power to your car, going downhill, etc. So also take that with a grain of salt as well. But anyways, let's get started. So we begin with the first gen, which lasted from 1998 to 2003. There was a 3.9-liter Magnum V6 for just $19.99 only, with 175 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque. I couldn't find pictures of this model, let alone any videos of a Durango doing the 0 to 60 run with the 3.9-liter, as this is extremely rare. It was only made for 1 year, and then very few buyers chose the V6 Durango at that time. So because of this, I've used a Dakota 0 to 60 video instead with the same engine. It's the closest thing that I could get. Again, for each of these I'll post this comparison chart. It's a random selection of cars from the same era with similar 0 to 60 times. The estimated times here are 0 to 60 in 11.6 seconds with an 18.2 second quarter mile, but I'm not sure anyone has ever actually tested a 3.9-liter Durango properly before. Next up is the 4.7-liter PowerTech V8 Durangos from 2000 to 2003. These got matched with a 4 or 5-speed automatic and had 235 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. It was tough to find an official number here, but the 4.7-liter was good for a 0 to 60 time around 9.2 seconds with a 17-second quarter mile. Pretty slow, but also not the best V8 offered for this gen. So Dodge did offer the older 5.2-liter Magnum V8 only from 1998 to 2000 before it was replaced. It made 230 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, and could only be had with a 4.4RE 4-speed TorqueFlite automatic transmission. This video shown is also of a 1998 Dakota model, as I couldn't find any good Durango footage with the 5.2-liter. This 5.2-liter had similar performance times to the 4.7-liter, with a range of 9 to 9.5 seconds to 60, and around 16.7 seconds to the quarter mile. To upgrade on the 5.2-liter, Dodge released a performance model for the Durango, the RT, in 2000 for the rest of the generation. This came with the 5.9-liter V8 with a 4.6RE 4-speed automatic, making 250 horsepower and 345 pound-feet of torque. The 5.9-liter got the Durango into a low to mid 8-second range for 0 to 60 and a quarter mile of 16.3 seconds, which would be a few tenths of a second quicker than the previous V8s. The real performance model of this first generation came in the form of the limited edition Shelby SP360, of which Dodge made just 300. This fantastic beast came with a supercharged version of the 5.0-liter Magnum V8 engine with 360 horsepower and 412 pound-feet of torque. These models came standard with Viper blue paint with 2 racing stripes, along with unique wheels, tires, suspension, and bumpers. This was no slouch, getting to 60 miles an hour in 6.7 seconds with a 15.2 second quarter mile time, which got into the territory with the likes of the Mustang GT, BMW X5, and Mercedes ML55 AMG. Now we can move on to Gen 2 from 2004 to 2009. The base V6 offered this time around was a 3.7 liter with a 4-speed automatic. This made just 210 horsepower and 235 pound-feet of torque. The V6 was slow by any standards, with an estimated 0 to 60 time of 10.8 seconds and quarter mile somewhere in the high 17s. Again, it wasn't a very popular choice. The 4.7 liter PowerTech V8 lived on until 2007, usually the standard engine offered on most of the trim levels. This made 235 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, paired with the same 5-speed automatic as it was in 2003. This engine was rated for around 9.5 seconds for 0 to 60 and 17.1 seconds for the quarter mile, a tiny bit slower than the first gen, possibly due to aerodynamics and the weight of the second gen Durango. For 2008 and 2009, the 4.7 liter PowerTech was replaced with a 4.7 liter Corsair V8 with quite a bit more power, adding 68 horsepower and 30 pound-feet of torque for a total of 303 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. The upgraded power seemed to make a lot of difference here, as the times dropped to 8.3 seconds to 60 miles an hour and 16.2 seconds to the quarter mile. This was fairly competitive for the time, with lots of bigger SUVs around this range. Of course, the shiny new toy was the famous 5.7 liter Hemi V8 engine, introduced in 2004 and used the entire generation on models such as the Adventurer and Limited. From 2004 to 2008, the power output was 335 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque, but the engine was upgraded for 2009, adding variable camshaft timing as well as 12.2% more horsepower and 8.4% more torque, getting up to 376 horsepower and 401 pound-feet of torque. The 5.7 liter Hemi propelled the Durango from 0 to 60 in a range of around 7.6 to 7.8 seconds, with a 15.6 to 15.7 second quarter mile time. Dodge also released just under 400 hybrid Durangos in 2009, only on the limited trim level, each with a GM-designed 2-stage hybrid system with 2 electric motors that were added to the 5.7 liter. The hybrid added 400 pounds of weight and $4,000 extra in cost, but it did increase the fuel economy by 46.2% in the city and 11.1% on the highway. Power was 345 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque. However, the hybrid was discontinued just 2 months after its debut, so there are no videos of this anywhere at all, whether it be the Durango or the Aspen hybrid. The hybrid performance times were so tough to nail down as these were not tested by many, but I found numbers from Motor Week from 16 years ago as they tested a hybrid Durango and found that it did 0 to 60 in 8.9 seconds and a quarter mile in 16.9 seconds. So that puts it well over a second slower than a regular Hemi, despite the similar power, and that's likely due to the 4-speed automatic CVT transmission, as well as some lag from the hybrid system, as some of the drivers reported that it felt like it took a second or two before the power kicked in when they hit the throttle. So again, unfortunately, there's no video or anything similar to display for this hybrid model. Now we move on to the third gen, which began in 2011 after a 1-year hiatus, and is still continuing to this day in 2025. The V6 this time around was a 3.6 liter Pentastar, and this was found in the majority of models, such as Express, Crew, SXT, Limited, GT, and even Citadel in either 4x2 or all-wheel drive format. Originally, this engine had 290 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, and from 2011 to 2013, Dodge used the W5A 580 5-speed automatic transmission from Mercedes that was also found in the Dodge Charger and Challenger. From 2014 to the present, Dodge used an 8-speed automatic in all their Durangos, and the V6 also got a tiny bump of 3 to 5 horsepower depending on the model. So the new 3.6 liter with the 5-speed was good enough to match the previous 4.7 liter V8 engine from 2008 and 2009. 0 to 60 times were in 8.2 seconds, and the quarter mile around 16.4 seconds. The 8-speed transmission seemed to make a massive difference, as now the Pentastar could match the previous Hemi's times with near identical performance, with a 0 to 60 range in 7.4 to 7.6 seconds, and the quarter mile time of 15.7 to 15.8 seconds. Moving on to the Hemi, not a lot was changed since the upgraded Eagle version was released in 2009. This 5.7 liter was optional on the Limited and Citadel, and found standard on the RT, making 360 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. The previous 545 RFE 5-speed automatic would live on from 2011 to 2013. Again, from 2014 and onwards, Dodge used the 8 HP 70 automatic with the 5.7. With the 5-speed auto here, performance times were just slightly quicker than Gen 2 in this new Durango body, doing 0 to 60 in 7.3 seconds, with a 15.5 second quarter mile. The 8-speed made things a lot quicker, doing 0 to 60 in around 6.2 to 6.4 seconds, and the quarter mile in 14.7 to 14.9 seconds. So at the time, that was the best performing Durango we'd ever seen, surpassing that old Shelby SP360. Of course, Dodge would one-up themselves with the SRT 392 model, all-wheel drive only, available from 2018 to 2024. Under the hood lies a 6.4 liter Hemi V8 with 475 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, and it was paired with the same 8-speed automatic as the 5.7. This Durango can compete with many other SUVs, like the Range Rover Sport SVR, Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, and Cadillac Escalade V. It does 0 to 60 in between 4.1 to 4.4 seconds, and the quarter mile in 12.7 to 12.9 seconds. Finally, we reached the peak Durango power and performance with the SRT Hellcat. This was released for 2021, taken away for 2022, then brought back from 2023 through 2025 in fairly limited quantities. This uses a 6.2 liter supercharged V8 motor, making 710 horsepower and 645 pound-feet of torque, with an 8 HP 95 8-speed automatic. So that automatic does upgrade from the previous V8s. The Hellcat can do 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds with a 12-second flat quarter mile, putting it in the realm of a lot of different vehicles like a BMW X5M, Audi SQ7 Prestige, and Maserati Levante Trofeo. As a bonus before ending the video, I wanted to briefly talk about the Durango Pursuit or Police version. This has been offered since 2018 in either V6 or V8 form. These are different from the civilian versions as they come with special police gear and heavy-duty parts like the suspension and alternator, to name a few. I couldn't find many 0 to 60 videos of the Pursuit. This makes sense as it's relatively new and the public hasn't purchased the used ones yet, but obviously they will be similar to the regular Pentastar and Hemi versions. There is an annual police vehicle evaluation that's done by the state of Michigan, so these numbers are official from them for the 2023 model year: 7.27 seconds for the Hemi and 8.65 seconds for the Pentastar, both much slower than the civilian versions, likely due to all the extra weight carried. And here's the performance chart that compares them to all the other police vehicles for 2023. So there you have it, all the acceleration, 0 to 60 and quarter mile times for each engine from the Dodge Durango from 1998 until the present day in 2025. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Were there any surprises for you here or anything that you found interesting or odd with the numbers or comparisons? Let me know down in the comment section below, and let me know if you want to see other videos on different models like this. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe for everything Mopar, and I'll see you in the next video.